What is up, y'all? It's been a while. It's Bryon and Fearless back with a
Hey, what's going on, man?
yeah, it's been a minute. Had a lot going on, and so
Yeah.
we're locking back in. Today we're gonna chop it up a little bit about this is a kind of a throwback episode. We're going back to the gurus with dubious claims about their record, and the fake expertise, and a lot of this has kind of been brought on by a lot of the discourse regarding Cheyenne Bryant, but she's not the only one that's going to go on the Summer Jam screen. So just stay tuned.
Uh, yeah, sure.
So, what's been going on with you, Fearless?
Not much, man. Just finish up this semester in school for the most part, man. I have a 4.0 average
Okay,
or whatever. I'm trying to make sure I maintain and keep that going.
all right,
Yeah, man. I'm loving this road to philosophy, man. Loving it.
let's go. Um, I've been grinding, onboarding a bunch of new clients, teaching people about how to make videos and the opportunity that's on social media that's available for them to grow their businesses and whatnot,
Mm.
and really getting back into my ADHD entrepreneurship bag and kind of telling people how I try to get things done, and that's been helpful. So I'm just keep leaning into it. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, that's really what's up. I'm actually doing a project with 531 Labs, another marketing agency. And so we have a little community where we're teaching business owners the basics of every aspect of marketing. And so that's something else I've been putting a lot of energy into. And so we got a good group of people. And so we're doing that every single week. So it's been busy, man. It's really been busy. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, this week, all right, let's see. We got, one of the comments is mine. I don't know how to turn it off.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
Specialize in promoting Twitch channels. Yep, we got the spam. We're back, baby. We got spam messages in the chat. Let's go.
Already?
Yeah. So anyway, so let's get into it. I know a lot of the discourse recently has been around the expose, the takedown, if you will, of Cheyenne Bryant. I've seen people do similar takedowns of Rashad Ritchie. I saw somebody trying to like fact check Umar Johnson's I think it had to be his dissertation or whatnot. And people push back on him saying, unless you know or trained in dissertations, um, you're trying to do a factual check on it, whether you agree with it or not. And really, the committee determines if this meets the criteria for a dissertation. Unless you're trained on doing it, you can't really evaluate it. So I've seen
Right.
lots of these online. And I think a lot of it is kind of the pushback against the guru culture that we're seeing online, where anybody can hop on and be an expert in a thing.
Mm.
And we're going to talk about how imposter syndrome fits into there and things along those lines. But the bigger question is, how do we know who's actually worth listening to and who is not? How do we evaluate expertise?
Mm.
Um, and oftentimes when we sit down and talk about expertise, we end up deferring to the person that has the answers top of mind, where they can just, you ask them a question, they can boom, spit out an answer. And we don't
Mm.
really evaluate whether they're not bullshitting you. like, and the way we qualify that information is how rapidly can they generate an answer for this question, as opposed to how correct is the answer that they generate.
Mm.
And I think that's kind of what determines it. And I'm getting a little bit ahead of the outline, but I mean, even look at the public appearances of Cheyenne Bryant, and look at the ease of which she communicates.
Mm.
She's very verbose, she's very articulate and everything, and um, people will just she has a confidence in what she's saying, and people assume that that is all it takes to be an expert, is confidence in what you're saying. In reality, a lot of experts aren't terribly confident in what they're saying, because you
No.
know they know the edges and limits of what they know.
Mhm.
And so that I think that's kind of what happens. And so when people evaluate expertise, they're evaluating confidence, charisma, titles, how many people are following them, what shows are they seeing them on, production value, vocabulary. You know what I'm saying? Whether they're speaking on something that resonates with you on an emotional level, and that's the point.
One of the things that especially in our culture now, we have this imposter syndrome, and I'm always trying to explain to people that the difference between being an imposter and imposter syndrome is that an imposter is trying to convince you that they are what they are.
Mhm,
Imposter syndrome is when you're trying to convince yourself that you are what you are.
mhm.
And that's the biggest difference there. Or whatever. And a lot of people that we've seen, especially with her, and it's not just her, it's other people too. Um, are they frauds? I mean, here's the thing. I think that is all based on a person's subjective
Mhm.
opinion on that. I can't. Um,
It
I
depends.
know that. Go ahead.
I think it depends on how we're evaluating frauds, but I do want to touch
Yeah.
real quick on the imposter syndrome stuff. And this is just something I found. I know a lot of experts in a lot of things, people who know, who are well studied, well learned, and things along those lines. Those are the ones that tend to struggle with a lot of that deal with the imposter syndrome, because you have the edge, the hard edge and limits of your knowledge, and you are comfortable enough to say I don't, or you're uncomfortable enough to say I don't know that. Um, the people that the scam artists, I've never seen a scam artist or a bullshit artist ever struggle with imposter syndrome in my life.
Hmm. Correct.
Because when you have imposter syndrome, from my experience, it's you are overly accountable to the outcomes you produce, where you feel
Hmm.
like every time you speak, you're supposed to provide some level of outcome, or anytime somebody engages with you, you're supposed to provide some kind of transformation. You feel like you are accountable for their success or their failure. And a lot of scam artists do not really care if you are
Not
successful
at
in the
all.
things that you're doing. And so
No.
I almost see the imposter syndrome as kind of a check. Like, you got somebody who knows a heck of a whole lot, but they struggle with making sure that they know as much as other people think they know. I see that as kind of a moral thing, as opposed to somebody who's 100% completely knowledge, who has 100% confidence in the bullshit that they have in their brain,
Right.
and has no fear about feeding other people that bullshit like it is a real thing. So that's kind of um that's where I would draw the line. I think when we see these people pop up on our screen and stuff, invariably, like, people think, Dr. Phil for a long time. Dr. Phil got over for a long time being a doctor, Dr. Phil. Um, and then you find out he lost his license a long time ago, and he's been sued multiple states for his practice and things that he's doing. Um, and but a lot of people had believed that he was an expert in the field he was in.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, he had a
I mean,
doctor.
was he not?
He hadn't been at the time, and he had gone years and years and years after, because I think it was psychology. I think he was a doctor of psychology, and he had lost his license years and years and years ago. And the other side was he was actually dealing in issues that he didn't have any direct, real working knowledge in. Like, the one place I can actually pull rank on Dr. Phil, which sounds crazy to say, is residential treatment facilities and things along those lines, and organizing, setting those up, and creating pro-social environments for kids and things along those lines. Um, I think that they should have got him out the paint when he first started sending them kids to boot camps that were unvetted and unverified, and had histories of killing kids and abusing kids and things along
Oh
those
wow.
lines. Yeah. And just yoinking kids out, having kids essentially kidnapped from their homes and sending them out to these places, and building this culture of where parents are looking for these hardline boot camps because their kids are misbehaving and they need to be punished, as opposed to addressing the behavior. So, but Dr. Phil was leaning into that, and I think that could have been the canary in the coal mine. But he had a show, and I mean, he was Oprah's guy. He was Oprah's guy, and people just leaned down and said, "Well, Oprah trusts him, so we got to trust him too."
Right. So that authority figure giving credence to someone else or
Yeah,
credibility to somebody else. created that open line. Yeah, I
So
get that.
and like I said, he's been like people been suing him. He just matter of fact, he just got sued by another network a couple last year. So
For what?
um um like he was supposed to start a fraudulent scheme to fleece Christian broadcaster for 500 million. Like TBN is the network that sued him, saying that he took a bunch of money, saying he's going to start this network and never really had any intention of doing it. That doesn't necessarily speak to his credentials, but that speaks to a pattern of behavior because he's been sued multiple times for different money schemes.
Hmm.
You know,
Okay.
and so um and that's what it was. And so I mean, let's get back, let's pivot back here because we're not talking about Dr. Phil narrowly. We're talking about the entire, I don't know how we want to put this, the grifter
The-
economy. Do we want to call it grifter? Like, are we comfortable enough saying
yeah,
that
you know
she's
what?
unequivocally a grifter?
I don't know, and I don't even want to call it a guru um type thing because there's Indian guys who come from India who do that whole guru thing too,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't ever. But you know what I'm saying? But they don't ever claim to be physicians. They don't claim to be doctors. They don't claim to, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think that a lot of it is title.
Yeah.
The title in which you call yourself. Like, for instance, when I went to school for life coaching, I actually had to go to school. The school I went to was the Meta Institute, which was in Golden Valley, Minnesota. Now, if you look that up, let me see if I can find it. The Meta Institute. Hold on 1 second, people. And okay, here we go. Okay, so our school isn't even around anymore. Like they don't even have yeah, we don't need there's not even a they took down a website and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I still have all of my like it was a 12-month comprehensive course on life coaching. So hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, practitioner of NLP, master practitioner of NLP. It was a bunch of just different stuff in there. Bro, I went to that school in I think I graduated in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
2006. So it's been 20 years, right?
Right.
I still have one of my every one of my books from there. Every one of them.
Right.
From first month all the way to the 12th month. And my certification. That for the most part the school isn't even around anymore. Actually, it's a brand new school now. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's 20 years ago. And I can see, and even if you call the people that were there, they'd be able to tell you about me. Yeah, because he was the only guy who came from Omaha. I was the furthest person who came all the way up there just to go to school there. And there was a school right in Papillion that I could have went to, but I wanted that school. So I mean, come on, bro. Like, man, I could tell you where I stayed at. I could tell you where I ate. I could tell you any and everything that you want to know about that. You know what I'm saying? Who were my instructors? What class I went to?
Yeah.
Who are the people that I function with? You know what I'm saying? So again, even though the school itself is gone, the experience is still mine.
Right.
The classwork is still mine.
Well,
You know what I'm
and
saying? Like all that stuff is still there. So that's, I think the biggest thing with, like, in my point was this: I graduated with a certification in life coaching for the most part, but
mhm,
my actual title, my actual title was therapeutic coach. Okay,
mhm,
therapeutic coach. That's what my certification says. Again, I got it in Minnesota.
right.
Here's the thing: in Nebraska, you cannot call yourself or label anything that you do therapeutic without a license. Nothing. So I can't call my company that. I can't call my title that. I can't say anything like that until I'm a, until I'm licensed for that, or I'm working with somebody who's licensed for that. So now I may use it as saying that these are what my credentials are,
Right.
but I tell people I cannot call myself a therapeutic coach because in Nebraska we can't do that. I can't use that title. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
right.
So I mean, but that's for me. I can't. Not, and not just like myself, but anybody around here who uses the title therapeutic anything.
Mhm.
You can't use that if you're not accredited for it.
Well, and
And that's the problem, that's the biggest issue that I've seen that people have about her is it's literally for that.
yeah, and we're listening, Jennifer. We're getting a couple of thoughts out, and then we're gonna get into um taking questions or whatnot. But um one of the things about it, because even to your point, in the state of Nebraska, you can be you have to have your master's in order to be was a mental, a mental health practitioner, or anything along those lines. But in Iowa, they're bachelor's level mental health practitioner, so it does vary state by state. And so, but you actually went out and got their credentials. Here's the thing that I'm gonna say. A lot of times we see it in the space where people will get these certificates or degrees from Harvard, and really it's their online correspondence program. Like, anybody can go pay $300 to $500 and get a certificate from Harvard. It doesn't mean that the Harvard online thing is fake. It just means that it's not, as it looks better on paper, and that's why people get it. Other times people are getting it to kind of grow and learn about it, right? And so I think the challenge is being able to balance out, because here's the thing, and this is what I'll say: just because a person is an expert lawyer doesn't mean that they're an expert physician, right? And just because somebody has credentials and degrees in one area doesn't make them some universal genius in other areas. And I think that bleeds into a lot of it, you know. um
Hmm.
I think that bleeds into a lot of how we talk about this stuff. If you're practicing in the thing that you are actually taught to do, that's one thing. But I think a lot of times people are trained to do one thing and practice in a bunch of other stuff that they're not necessarily, they have a passing knowledge of, or it's lucrative.
Right.
Um, and so that's kind of where it's at. Um, and like I said, it is a balance of it, because there are times where just you could even be talking to somebody who's fully credentialed, fully trained in the thing that they're doing, but they still make a mistake. They're still wrong about stuff. And
Hmm.
so there is that balance. But a lot of times we like the appearance of knowledge. Like, we want the appearance of this guru is being knowledgeable in this specific area. Um, and I know there are real gurus and things along those lines, but there are also people that will even claim to be an expert level knowledge in this thing, and they're really not. I've seen it in the marketing space a lot, where you have this 18-year-old kid who's a marketing whiz or marketing expert, and really what he's doing is he's selling you into Go High Level, like their entire white label program. And so, but he's a marketing expert, an automation expert, but all he's doing is selling you a software package. And the way that Go High Level set up, you can white label it um, and sell it as your own AI marketing suite and put your company brand and everything on it. But the company Go High Level is doing all the stuff on the back end, and people will sell Go High Level installations for five, 10, $20,000, and Go High Level is $97 a month if you want to do it yourself. So they'll sell these installations, or they'll charge you $300, a month for your website with all the stuff on the back end wired to it. And then, but then they'll say, I'm the marketing whiz, I'm the marketing expert. And all they are really an expert on affiliate marketing, and they're selling you into their program. So it is what we're seeing a lot of on social media. I think that's sometimes it's hard for me to make money on social media because I don't do, like, I'll tell you, yeah, it's just Go High Level. There's repackaged Go High Level and sold it to you. And sometimes that honesty, hey, you don't really need to pay for that. Like, or you can do this for free. A lot of times that honesty does hurt me, but from a business standpoint. But again, I don't feel bad about what I tell people, if that makes sense. Like, I don't have to wrestle with my conscience about it, if that makes sense. And so I think that's the balance. So we talked about, and we don't necessarily want to say guru culture, but it's in the self-help. It's the self-help industry in general. And how we define who is an expert, who's not, who do we listen to, who's not. Because sometimes a person could be sitting up there completely bullshitting with no lived experience and still give you good advice. I think we saw that with one of the subjects of our show today was Cheyenne Bryant. I saw her sitting up there with Cam Newton, and she was saying some real stuff. Wasn't discounting what she was saying, but it's discounting. At some point, you have to say, okay, are you an actual expert to be telling people how to do X, Y, and Z in their lives?
But again, though, like even when she's saying to people, cool, you can say whatever you want. Don't present yourself as something that you're not, though.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Right.
If that's what you want to go out there and say, then go out there and say it. Cool, do you? I don't necessarily have to agree or give you credibility for this and the other. I could care less one way or the other. Excuse me. I couldn't care less one way or the other. The issue is, it's you are gallivanting as something that you are not. And instead of just saying that I'm a life coach who gives out what did she say? She's a what expert?
Oh, let me see.
What kind of expert did she say?
I gotta look it up.
She was a psychiatry expert.
I think she said psychology.
A psychology expert. I mean, she could say that I'm a life coach who gives out a psychology information or whatever. You can say that. If she'd have just kept it that I'm a life coach and this is what I do, cool. Even if she would have been like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I call myself doctor, blah, 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 blah. I am not actually a doctor. It's more of like a title type thing or whatever, because of what I'm doing. I own the name Dr. Bryon. That's what it is. Again, ain't nobody tripping. Go ahead, do your thing. But when you get on the Breakfast Club and you double down, and you triple down on it, and you start saying that the government gave you your money back or offered to give you your money back. And then the other thing is that you can find all of your accreditations up until your dissertation. When you know how many doctors I know that have PhDs
Hmm.
that have like 2 or 3 copies of their dissertations. They they've been working on that shit forever.
Hmm.
They can tell you what it is, like off the bungee. Oh,
Right.
what was your dissertation in? What did you talk about? Who did you Who did you argue with? Because once you state your dissertation, you have to be able to argue it in front of a board.
Yep.
Who's the board? Who helped you?
Well, and it goes back to like you mentioned with the doctor
How
thing,
many
like
how many pages was it?
right. It goes
How
back
many
to
pages was it? You
so
ain't got no copies? Not one? Really?
and that's the problem. And it does go into the, because using the word doctor, that's like that's a society. That means that you've reached a certain level of expertise and knowledge,
Yes.
and you've earned it through study and application and working knowledge and stuff.
Rigorous, rigorous study, rigorous application.
And the licensing is supposed to make sure that you don't harm people and you're able to be
That
held
part.
accountable. And
Mhm.
the way she framed the entire, well, the licensing is just red tape and it just allows, not having license. Like, no, the licensing is the thing that allows you to be held accountable for the things that you say in the public square. But like I tell people, like I audited, like for those that don't know, you can audit courses, right? Like, which means that you do the coursework, do all the other stuff without actually being in a degree program or thing. I've
What do you
audited,
mean?
so you can audit courses, right? Like, let me pull it up because I know a lot of people audit stuff at, they'll use the Harvard University online things and audit sites and whatnot. Basically, if you have the syllabus and coursework and books and all the other stuff, you can go through all the coursework without physically being enrolled in the school, and you have that knowledge of stuff. But that doesn't mean that it's applied. That doesn't mean it's been tested. It's been vetted. It doesn't mean anything. Just means that you have the knowledge that people have, right? And that doesn't mean that, like, I tell people all the time, like I've read, because initially what I was going to do was, my goal was, okay, I'm going to go get my master's in clinical counseling. And that was my entire goal. Like a year and a half, I started prepping myself for it because I was supposed to be getting this scholarship that was going to pay my entire way through my job. Yeah.
Boys down.
Yep, did all the coursework, went through all the books and everything, did all that stuff, just so that when it was time to actually do it, I could just blast through it, right? And I did that in my off hours because I'm a nerd and that was fun to me.
Mhm.
But then they rug pulled me on the scholarship. And so I tell people, yeah, I did a lot of the coursework. I read all the stuff and all that other stuff. Only thing I didn't do was officially enroll and go through the program. That don't mean shit to anybody, right? Like I have the working knowledge of it to a degree, but I don't have an application level knowledge of it. Hell, I don't even have
Right.
a vetted or tested version knowledge of it. I just
Mhm.
know things from consuming the information. And so I think a lot of times we mistake that level of it. And so, like with her, because when we start going through some of the credentials that she listed, saying a doctor is crazy. Like her saying I'm doctor whatever, like as part of her branding, um, that's wild. Especially when you're saying that you're not saying you're a doctor in psychology, but you have expertise in psychology, expertise being a therapist, expertise being a licensed clinician. You are stepping into you're entering fraud territory, and you're entering I'm going to do harm territory. Um, and I think that's where it crosses over. I think that's where it crosses over to a lot of stuff where you're presuming or pretending like you have this knowledge and you're sharing the knowledge with people, but you don't actually have the actual working knowledge of the thing.
Right.
And so I think that ends up becoming the issue. Um, and the difference does matter, right?
Mhm.
You
I
know,
think so.
and I think and to be honest, I think she's using the entire container of life coaching as this buffer so that she can play around in these gray areas and still pretend to have expertise in areas that she doesn't, as opposed to being transparent when somebody says, I'm Cheyenne Bryant. This is what all my credentials and my studies are. I haven't completed some of these, but I have a working knowledge of it. And I've talked to people as a life coach in that capacity. Um, you know, and being transparent about it. And I think that's been the
Mhm.
biggest challenge of how this thing is going down in the public sphere. Because again, she has her fans that have actually been helped out by stuff that she said,
Mhm.
and they go hard in the paint for her because she does say logical stuff. It's whether that stuff is actually backed up with credentials or is it just, that's what I think. This is my opinion. It's not necessarily
Right.
backed up on anything. And sometimes the
And,
opinion works, sometimes it doesn't.
and again, though, I mean, here's the thing: I don't always agree with all the psychologists say in general. I don't.
Right.
I mean, I got a bunch of books behind me and above me and all that. I don't always agree with that shit. I I just don't. And these are from actual doctors.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always agree with it. So again, it doesn't matter whether or not you're credentialed or not.
Mm-hmm.
If whatever you're talking about, if I don't agree with it, that's just me. I don't get your stuff. But somebody else might. Somebody else might be like, oh my God, that was the best news I've heard. I love it. I
Mm-hmm.
love, this, that, and the other. Cool. Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I'm good on that. But that's not the point. The point is, and even when people say that she's not hurting anybody,
Mm-hmm.
yes, the fuck you are.
You are.
Yes, you are. Because people are going to listen a whole lot more because they're believing something that you are not. And they're going to be like, oh no, well, Dr. Such and Such told me this. Dr. Such and Such told me that.
Right.
And uh, that's the reason why a lot of them psychologists in California, it's started calling people on her because it's like, dude, you can't do this.
Yeah.
If you want to tell people you're a life coach, tell them you're a life coach. Don't sit there and act like you're more than that. If you want to give out, like I said before, not philosophical, but what did she say she was
Life coach.
again?
I'll pull it up here
Well,
because I got to
well,
jump
how
over.
does she say it? She's a such and such expert. Okay, psychology expert. Cool. You can tell people that. You can say that all day long.
Right.
Don't call yourself a fucking doctor. Don't
Yeah.
do that. Don't tell people that you were at some point a licensed therapist. And then here's another thing. She said this on the Breakfast Club when they were asking about, her degrees. She said that when she found out about all this, because she was applying to a law school to be a professor at a law. Go
Mm-hmm.
back and listen to it.
Yeah, I know. I know. I know.
That's what she said.
I know. I know what she said.
You don't see anything in her bio that talks about her actually going to school for law.
Mm-mm.
And here's the thing, I could be wrong, but the only thing that you're going to be working at at a law school is a fucking janitor. Or you could be working as like in a clinical place, or not clinical, but taking payments from people. But you're not going to be a professor at a law school
No.
without a law degree.
Yeah.
That's,
Uh.
I mean, unless, again, I'm not, all I'm saying is that there's certain things that certain people have. I mean, you can be a college professor without having a degree.
Well. Yeah. And
It has happened. As a matter of fact, it still happens. that you can be, I'm going to say it again, a college professor without having a degree, honorary or not.
Yeah.
It happens. Period. But you being a fuck out of here. Come on, man.
The thing about
Come
it
on,
is,
dude.
like talking when you take that leap where you're saying I'm going to law school to be a professor. That's a long path. Like you got to graduate law school, and then there's a couple of other steps in order to become an entire process to become a professor. Like right now,
You got
it's
to know what you're talking about.
right, and you have to
You got to know what you're
you
doing.
actually have to have a degree in order to be a professor at a law school. Now you could be an adjunct professor. Like
Okay.
I'm going for adjunct professor at a local community college for marketing stuff because I have working
Okay.
knowledge. I got a portfolio and stuff like that. I can actually hold that position and
That make
speak
that makes
intelligently.
sense.
But
That
to
makes sense.
to do where you're actually saying I'm going to law school, like you could go to law school if you got a bachelor's, you could test in and get into law school. You could apply, do all the other stuff to get into law school and pursue your law school, like was it Juris Doctorate or whatever. You can pursue that, and that's fine. But the thing we're saying is there was never any mention about, yeah, I'm gonna go get my JD and do the other steps, and that's what I want to do in multiple years. She's making it seem like, yeah, I'm about to go do that tomorrow, bro. Like I'm about to go apply and lock it up. And so I think what happens is, and see, it gets really weird when it comes down to the money, because now we have to start evaluating, how did she use this label to separate people from their money, you know? And now you start getting into some gray areas. How many times was she booked on a show as a resident expert of the thing? But I don't know, man. Here, I'm gonna throw this in here. I'll be seeing Julian Michaels, the what was that show, Biggest Loser lady?
Mhm.
She be on CNN talking about politics and stuff, like on the panel discussion. Wrong as hell, just wrong, up there saying wrong stuff, um, all the time. And
Mhm.
so I feel like it's not just social media that gets sucked into this world of somebody is just talking very articulately about a topic that they are not educated in specifically. It's starting to happen in regular news too, like CNN. She's sitting there with people that have degrees in political science and are reporters that have covered international conflicts and all kinds of other stuff for decades. And here's Julian Michaels. Like this guy taught political science at Yale. And then there's Julian Michaels sitting there arguing with him.
Hmm.
What are we doing out here? What are we doing out here?
Yeah,
Like
it's kind of
she
like
got
that Dunner. What is that? That Dunner. What is it?
Dunning Kruger.
The Dunning Kruger effect. I mean, horrible.
She up there talking about. I remember talking about. She decided she's going to talk about slavery, and then she used the fact that she adopted some black kids from Haiti, I believe, and talking about, well, less than whatever percent of people down south or people in the country own slaves, and then you run the numbers back, and it's like that the numbers you're doing don't even make sense, because you're trying to take the entire country where slavery wasn't legal in the entire country, and then you're trying to filter that into something that happened in the southern states and use
Mhm.
that, and you're diluting the numbers. But she was 10 toes down on it,
Mhm.
telling people the history is, telling black folks the history of slavery on a historian, telling him the history of slavery on CNN. It's like, this is crazy work. What is
I,
happening right now? But I
you know what's so funny? I'm reading this book right now. Can you see
that,
that?
yeah, depth of expertise. I think I've read that one actually.
Yeah, I'm reading this right now. The Death of Expertise, the campaign against establishment, the campaign against established knowledge, and why it matters. I mean, so like, yeah, I saw this. I was like, oh man, I got to get that. So that's what I'm reading now.
Okay.
Like, yeah. So,
You
yeah.
know, and so again, you can't go out and call yourself a doctor without doing the things that are requisite of a doctor. And you're telling people from your expertise as a doctor that you really don't have on what to do with their life, and say that you're not causing harm, even if your stuff is right.
Mm.
Because you're not going to, you eventually, if they keep coming to you, eventually you're going to get it wrong. And you don't have, there's no framework to hold you accountable. There's no, there's no anything to vet you, because even doctors disagree with other doctors, right? But they're
All the
disagreeing from
time.
an area of expertise.
Yes, because it's called a peer-to-peer
Right.
review. Like, yeah, and the fun thing about a peer-to-peer review is that you send it. I mean, and here's the thing: anybody who's been to college would know, especially in English composition,
Mhm.
we all have to do it. We have to read somebody else's stuff and then critique it.
Right. I've done it.
That's English Comp 1.
I had to critique Arthurian legends, like, you know, and I did that. I took that class on, like, was it the summer of my junior year as my freshman English. I was in freshman English at UNO when I was, like, you know, a sophomore in high school, and so I had to do an Arthurian legend critique. It's just a natural thing that happens, but it's part of the academic process. Um, we're not saying that all experts are infallible. We're not saying that just because you are a doctor or you have a doctorate or even a, you know, Juris Doctorate or whatever, we're not saying you're infallible. But what we're saying is, if you haven't even earned the credentials to call yourself a doctor, you can't speak as one. You're not allowed to speak as one. It's illegal. It's legal. And so, um, you know, and you know, we were talking about Julian Michaels from CNN. Like, they're like, well, they didn't bring her on as a political correspondent, but they have her talking about politics. They got her as a culture war panelist and public health. What credentials does she have to talk about public health besides being on The Biggest Loser? I'm asking you because my mom was an epidemiologist. She actually did public health. So to say, like, Julian Michaels is an expert in public health, how? Because she's on television? She's on a TV show as a personal trainer. So now she knows, you know, personal trainers on social media are telling you that, like, V Shreds, that was one of the big ones back in the days. In the weightlifting space, V Shreds was telling people some of the most craziest shit in the world.
I don't know what that is. What is that?
He is a personal trainer who had a following online, and people were looking to him for bodybuilding advice, right, and fitness advice, and this dude was just making shit up, and people were getting hurt for it. You know, telling people to, you know, take this supplement, inject this, do this exercise, and people are getting hernias and all kinds of other crazy shit.
Right.
And it wasn't even stuff that he was doing. It was just stuff that looked good on camera. And so I think that's kind of where we're going to it. I think maybe the bottom line, maybe we can boil some of this down, because I'm going through this outline. It's looking good on camera. Cheyenne Bryant looks great on camera.
Amazing.
Looks amazing on camera. And she sounds amazing on camera. She sounds amazing when a mic's in front of her. And unfortunately, that's all you need to do to be an expert in the world that we live in. I'm not saying that she's an expert. I'm saying, in order to attain that level of expertise where people defer to what you say, that's all it takes. You just got to look great, sound great doing it. And people assume you're an expert. You know, and like I said, it would be different if she said, I'm a life coach. Is she even certified as a life coach? I don't even know that. She just said, I'm a life coach and I've studied this, I studied that, I studied this, I studied that. That is different than saying I'm a doctor.
Right.
Who does life coaching? That's crazy.
Yes. Totally different.
Yeah. I don't even know. Like, I now I got to look it up, but I'm like, is she even certified certified in what she says she's certified in, or what she's doing?
Dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't even know.
And this does go back to a previous conversation because we talked about the entire Billy Carson thing, right? Like one of the earliest episodes we had was Billy Carson sitting up there arguing with us, an actual legitimate religious scholar who was, I think he was pre-doctoral at the time, and I
Hmm.
think he was working on his doctorate. Um,
Why, who is this?
Billy Carson.
What do you mean working on his?
No, the guy he
He's a
was arguing
doctor?
with. The guy he was arguing with.
Oh, Wes Hoff.
Wes
Yes.
Hoff. He was arguing Wes
Yes.
Hoff. And he and Wes Hoff got into it. This is one of the very early episodes that we had. And he and Wes Hoff are going back, like he's trying to go back and forth with Wes Hoff. And Wes Hoff is like, where did this come from? What expertise? Like, and you saw you saw there were levels and tiers to expertise and
Right.
actual knowledge. You're talking to somebody who actually has working, studying knowledge of the thing versus somebody who says that they do. Um, and he's a different example of it. But since he looks good on camera, he sounds great on camera, people assume that he knows what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, what are his credentials? Hidden knowledge, ancient history, metaphysics, spirituality, alternative explanations. And see, that's where you start getting into terrain because I mean, I don't want to discount anybody's belief system. That's not what my
Right.
intention is. Don't want to discount anybody's said belief system. But that's where a lot of gray area shit happens. Is when you start getting into the metaphysics side of things and the spirituality side of things and alternate medicine and all that other stuff because there is no standard of proof.
Hmm.
All you need is some anecdotal evidence, you know, and people will defer to you. All you got to do is sound like you know what you're talking about. um Watch the guy online, um conversation years and years ago, was having this conversation around COVID time. um my homie is a respiratory tech. She understands all the functions of the lungs and breathing and your entire circulatory and respiratory system, right?
Gotcha.
And then we had dude on there who saw an article by Dr. Sebi and a couple of other things and was sitting there talking about how the respiratory system worked. And this dude was 10 toes down. He's going to fight her on this. And he's explaining stuff that's not realistic, like talking about how to, was it alkalinize your blood or whatever. And you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. And she's like, yeah, you can't really, like, that's not a real thing. He's like, no, it is, man. It is. And that's that level of knowledge we're talking about. But his belief is so strong because it is not necessarily tied to anything real.
Hmm.
I think that's kind of where, because I don't want to throw Billy Carson in the same bag as Cheyenne Bryant, but I mean, they're kind of
I mean,
operating in the same
yeah. I
capacity.
mean, yeah. I mean, and I don't know, dude. It.
You read a lot, and I'm gonna tell you this: you
I do.
read, Fearless reads a lot of books. Who can write a book? I'm asking you, who
Like
can write a book?
anybody.
That's it right there.
Anybody.
Anybody could be a published author.
Anyone. Yeah.
And anybody could put Dr. whatever. Like I could put Dr. Bryan Hill on a book and publish it. That don't mean I'm a doctor, and that don't mean I know what I'm talking about. But the fact my name is published on that book, it written on that book, and people are going to say that is a sign of credibility in the space that we operate in. And
Mhm.
it's
I mean,
weird.
but just by writing a book in general
Mm-hmm.
states that you have a certain amount of knowledge about what I'm a published author.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, I totally get it. That
I'm a,
happens.
I can infer all I want to, but saying I have this level of expertise in this thing, I'm a paid ghostwriter. Like I've been paid to write people's books. That you know what I'm saying. Um, I could say I'm an expert in technical writing and all this other stuff because I've done it. I've been paid to do so, but that doesn't mean that I'm an expert on the technical things I was talking about in the technical writing. I'm an expert in what I was told to tell people about the technical aspects of the thing for the technical writing. That doesn't mean I absorb that information. And a
Right.
lot of times, the concept in marketing is use your book as your business card, right? So people will use a published book. They'll use the fact that they are published as a business card to get them opportunities down the road. And so that leans into Billy Carson, right? So, um, he leans into it. I think he's published. I think he's.
A
I think
bunch
he's.
of books.
I think he's published a bunch of books. Founder of his Forbidden Knowledge, media personality, certificate in science with the emphasis in neuroscience from MIT. I think I.
That's
I
what he
think that was. I
said.
think that was in. I think that was in the. I think that was disputed. I think that entire emphasis in neuroscience from MIT. I think that was actually disputed. And a certificate in ancient civilization from Harvard. And you can get right now, right now, I can pay a
Oh
couple $100
man.
and get a certificate in ancient civilization from Harvard online. It's the same thing. Granted, if that's even a thing, if that's even an actual certificate. Um, and so the MIT thing says that certificates are professional development credentials. They do not grant academic merit, and completing an executive certificate does not make someone a MIT Sloan alumni. But he's telling people this. So, what? And I guess maybe the question is, why are people so obsessed with the term doctor and these credentials and everything? The reason why is because that automatically buys you credibility with people that may or may not give you money. Because at the same time, people need to realize these appearances are paid. You get paid to go on the Breakfast Show or Breakfast Club.
Mm-hmm.
Vlad pays people. I think it's like his bottom rate starts out at $5,000 per appearance.
Hmm.
DJ Vlad, people pay for you to come on these platforms. I'm pretty sure Cam probably paid her some money to come on the platform. And so when you have these credentials, you can get booked. Um, you know, that's just the way it goes. And I think maybe that's why people fake it sometimes.
Hmm.
So I don't want to spend too much time talking about Billy
Hold
Carson.
on.
We've done it.
Oh,
We've done it.
Billy.
Um, it's really bigger than just these two or three people, because you got Dr. Phil to a degree, RFK to a degree, um, even Dr. Oz to a degree, because Dr. Oz has gone outside of his level of expertise. Um, there are elements of this that cross lines, and a lot of times it comes from the social media. We got instant internet access to pretty much every fact that you ever want to look up. You can instantly fact check people's credentials like that. Why do we seem more susceptible to this?
Hmm.
Why are we more susceptible to this?
Well, I would love to hear your opinion on that.
I don't know. I think it's information overload. I think sometimes we have to assimilate too much information, too much data. It's just like if you sit there and watch a 24-hour news station and they have that ticker at the bottom of the screen. That's not really giving you any information. That's giving you blurbs. It's not giving you news stories, but people feel like it's actually informing them, and it's not. It's the opposite of it. And
Hmm.
sometimes I feel like there's too many places to draw information from. And instantly you're going to filter out stuff that doesn't align with you. So if you're already aligned with Cheyenne Bryant, or you're aligned with Billy Carson, or you're aligned, was it Sebi, and all these other people that are in this space, if you're already aligned with them, you're going to toss out the information that proves that they don't know what they're talking about, or they're not who they say they are. If you're already aligned with what they say, I think sometimes that maybe that plays into it. I don't know. I think we're in just information overload.
Right.
Um,
Which is just as bad, honestly.
yeah,
And I almost think that, man, it almost seems like this is like intentional.
you think so?
I, I'm pretty sure it is
Well, I know
to give
Steve.
people an intentional overload on
Yep.
shit. You know, like I do, I
Uh,
really do.
from a political standpoint, I remember Steve Bannon, who was one of Trump's old. It's not one of old. I mean, Trump, like he engineered like a lot of the MAGA movement stuff. He used to call it flooding the zone, where you just keep stacking news story on top of news
Just
story on top of
bullshit.
visit. You just keep
And
stacking
again, a
that
lot of
stuff,
this bullshit.
and people's ability to process all that information fades. and they can't figure out where the line is and where the line is and because the idea isn't to get you to believe in lies, it's to get you to question what's true and what's not true.
Yeah.
And so even if something's been established, vetted, and proven as true, you still approach it with a super high level skepticism that and you don't believe what's true. You have an idea of we never know what's true. I think that's the disinformation idea, is where you don't know what's true, which is a more dangerous place to be than being lied to me.
Mm.
I mean, I'm just kind of freestyling here, but I think that's kind of what it is. It's more dangerous to believe a complete lie than to not be able to discern what's true and what's not true. Because you can believe a lie and only impacts one aspect of your life. If you can't discern truth from lie in any aspect of your life, you're in a very dark place.
Yeah, you about to have a problem.
And I think people like Cheyenne Bryant and Billy Carson and all these other people, Jay Shetty kind of falls into that too. I've seen Jay Shetty on some bullshit too.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that with Jay Shetty, so I read his book too.
Mm-hmm.
I think with his outlook, so I think that his thing is more like twofold. Again, kind of like going with Cheyenne Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Shetty's a good-looking guy.
Yep.
Very good-looking guy. And the fact that he used to be a monk makes it even better because he understands the concept of capitalism, but he also understands the conflict of having nothing.
Well, it goes in
being with you. You know what I mean? Whereas Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, on the other hand, there is no humility there. Like none whatsoever.
Yeah.
And even when she was on that morning show, and the newscaster asked her, like, since you can't show and prove that you're a doctor, why not just remove it and say, hey, forget it, Cheyenne Bryant, this is what I do, blah 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 blah.
It's branding.
But again, she just kept doubling down on it, like, I earned this, I earned that. But you can't show and prove it.
Mm-hmm.
Any of it. So take doctor off of it and just ride with this. And she's like, that's the hill you're gonna stand on. She's like, yes, that's what I'm gonna stand on. And then she's talking to the reporter or the interviewer, and the interviewer's like, because she's like, I think she said something along the lines of, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And she said, yes, but not really. I'm kind of paraphrasing. And the lady started talking about all the schools she actually went to.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, nah, not really. Like, I'm quick to tell people exactly where I went. And I did a speech for my speech class, and it was based on paying it forward or random acts of kindness, right?
Yep.
And I remember I wrote this whole entire speech and I gave it. And it was about one of the things that I do, and I think I've told you about this. If I see somebody reading a book, if I'm out at lunch, dinner, breakfast, whatever, I'll pay for their whole meal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I do it all the time. Anytime I go somewhere, I see somebody with a book, I'll pay for their meal. Most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, they don't even know it's me doing it. I'll pay for the meal and the tip. Right?
Okay.
And I've been doing this for years. And so for my speech for Random Acts of Kindness, I ain't got to reach far because this is something that I already do. So one of the things that I tell people is to acknowledge that when a person is reading a book. And I was like, I guarantee you, if you walk up to a person and start talking to them about the book they're reading, All of us who love to read will talk to you about our books. And then if you start asking, okay, let me ask you, Kindle or physical book, we will all talk about that. We'll
Right.
all comment on it. I don't care who you are, right? You might find maybe 1% of people who don't want to be bothered, period. But I would say 90% of us will talk to you about books.
Mm-hmm.
Out and about, we don't even need to know you. And we'll talk about our books, right?
Right.
You trying to tell me that that I found the only person in California who has a doctorate who doesn't want to talk about their dissertation? Who
Yeah,
can't find their dissertation? Like
that's right.
really? Like bro, I found the only person in California who's a doctor, but and I still haven't heard anybody ask, what was your dissertation on?
Right. It just
What was it on? They just asked, do you have one?
it's an avoidance thing.
I mean, whether you're talking to the person, correct, it is just a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So there should be no reason to for you not to at least know where it is.
Well, the thing about it is that piece
Or
of paper.
at least not be able to go find it in the space that you're telling people, hey, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing.
Well, and if it's just a piece of paper and credential, which I do agree to a degree, but
So do I. So
but
do
at the
I.
same time, then why do you need to fake having that piece of paper? Why do you need to tell people that you have the thing when you don't have the thing, when you've created, where you've gone through the field of study and whatnot to actually attain that piece of paper? Um, that's where the question comes in. And I think what happens is a lot of times people will fake the funk with one of those, the fake degree or saying they have a degree that they don't have because it adds credibility. It makes it easier for people to pay. People pay experts. And that's a marketing thing. If you seem to be an expert in your field, people pay you for it. And for a lot of people, that degree, whether you have it or if you're just fronting, is for them. That's proof of purchase. Like they believe that you're an expert. So I do agree it's a piece of paper, but if it's just a piece of paper and you don't need one to show your expertise, then why do
Then
you
you
have to
ain't gotta
claim it?
lie about it
You ain't
either.
got to lie to kick it about it. And I think that's where
You
the
have to
issue
say
comes in
nothing. Nothing.
because specifically when we're talking about doctorates and things along those lines, there are
Correct.
rules. There are rules that go along with, there are expectations that go along with it, where there's a layer of accountability that could come with being in that fraternity or sorority of doctors, people that can call themselves doctors of different fields of study. There are rules that come along with it. And when you decide that you're going to call yourself a doctor of whatever, you're agreeing to whatever the rules are around that doctorate. And so that's where I'm saying. And so unfortunately, um
Especially in mental health, man.
mental health mental health.
Especially in mental health, man.
You don't want, I saw a cat on YouTube.
Especially in that. If you said that you had a if you said that you have a degree, a doctorate in philosophy, who gives a shit?
Hmm.
Ain't nobody gonna care. Or you
Right.
have a doctorate in theology. No one gives a shit. I
Hmm.
mean, at least I don't. Cool, I don't care. But to say that you have that but to say that you have that, and especially in a field like mental health, bro, that is so dangerous.
Yeah, because you can actually get people killed. Like you can actually
Correct.
you could actually give somebody that is mentally unstable bad information, and since there's no mechanism to hold you accountable for that, if they harm themselves or something along those lines, you have an indirect part in the negative outcome. I've seen a doctor, somebody who's actually licensed as a mental health practitioner, online running a YouTube channel. They had to do a full apology and retraction video for
Yes.
somebody that they had done work with or given advice to on the online platform that ended up harming themselves. And they
Hmm.
had to go through a whole layer of apologies and explanations and clarifications because of what they said to that person while they're working with them. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, it's just a piece of paper, but also there are expectations that come along when you give yourself the title of doctor or licensed mental health practitioner. The license means something, and that means that wherever you're practicing, you're held accountable to it. All right. But the credibility conferred by a college degree is fading fast. Grade inflation, higher grades, poor performance, AI being smarter than degreed humans allows access without expertise. Yeah, but I listen. The AI companies will tell you don't come to AI for medical advice. You need to go
Yeah.
to somebody who actually has the degree and working experience. Um, they're actually gotten in. They're actually dumbing down AI models and stuff because people are actually using them as therapists, which they do not want. And so, um, I think we have to talk about the concept of familiarity with the concept versus expertise with the concept. You
I
can
mean, and go ahead.
you can watch a YouTube video and be familiar with the concept, right?
Hmm.
You can watch a YouTube video and have a level of familiarity with it. You can watch 5 YouTube videos and have more familiarity than somebody who's never experienced the concept before. But does that mean you got more expertise than somebody who's been doing the thing that you watch those videos? They've been doing the thing for 10 years.
Yeah.
And are you
I mean,
qualified to stand on stage and talk with them about it?
right. I mean, matter of fact, that's almost like for me. Um, I have a couple motorcycles, right? I have a Harley Road Glide, which is a big bike, and
Mhm.
then I have a Victory Highball, which is a smaller bike but big motor, right? And I'm still working on being able to do a U-turn,
Mhm.
right? Look, do my U-turns and all that stuff. Um, if I were to start telling people that I'm a motorcycle instructor and I still suck, I'm not good
Mhm.
at riding my bike. You know how dangerous that is for me to tell somebody else what they should be doing
Right.
and they're not on their bike if I'm still working on it myself. Now again, I'll watch when we're done here, I'll go out and go ride my bike. I'll sit down, I have watched hundreds of hours of YouTube of watching them do it, watching them do it, watching them do it, watching them do it. And then I'll go out there and go try it. Eventually, I'll get it. I know I will.
Right.
But doing it versus watching it, it looks a whole lot easier than it actually is.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying, or whatever. And when it comes to mental health, it's something totally different,
Uh,
totally different.
so I've done when I was 14, that'd be about 14, 15 years old. I have piloted a single prop plane. I went to space camp. I had aeronautics all through 8th grade. It's part of the big program that my mom actually found and got me into, and did the entire training through the school year. Blah blah blah. Summer accumulation of the entire thing was fly plane, do a couple fly a Cessna, do a couple of maneuvers or whatnot, and then the pilot on board will land the plane. So I did takeoff, maneuvers. They did the landing side of it. That doesn't qualify me to teach nobody about no damn plane or how to be a
Right.
how to fly a plane. And me saying that my experience is enough to tell you is dangerous. And I think that's the thing. That's the difference, to
That's
say
all we're
you
saying.
to give people mental health advice. We're actually giving them advice as opposed to, hey, this is what worked for me, try it, you know, this is what worked for me. Like
Yes.
I could speak to
Yes.
what's worked with me as a business owner, and person who's worked in human and social services with ADHD. I could tell you it's worked for me, right? But when I put on the hat of now I'm a licensed credential therapist telling you on how to manage your ADHD, that is a place where I don't belong. Even
Mm,
though I have all the lived experience of somebody who's lived their entire life with it, doesn't mean that I have the direct experience as a practitioner.
right.
Um, and so I think that's kind of what it is. I think we tend to devalue. I think what the place is, we're devaluing post-secondary education, devaluing college, because it's been framed as this career thing. It has been framed as a career preparation or track. It's been basically, we've been selling college as something it hasn't been for the last 50 years, right?
Mm,
College is just social proof that you can stick with a thing that is difficult and leave with a degree, right? Stick with the field of study. It is not a career track unless you are like an engineer or doctor, something along those lines. And even then, it's not 100% of a career track. Um, I think we've been sold this thing that college, this mythology that college is this magical career track that's automatically you go to college and then you get a job in the thing that you went to college for. And that is not a reality for most people. But that also doesn't mean that their degrees are worthless or devalued or, um, you know, or anything along those lines. It just means that, they had the way it was posed to me was we don't necessarily care if you have a master's or the hiring process. We care that you committed to getting a master's and show that level of ability to stick through a thing. So we don't
mm,
care what knowledge you get from it. It shows your level of commitment to the thing. And that's what they were looking at. And so I think we view college and the way that it's sold to people as this magical career track, just like how we do with high school. Like high school, people, what you went? I went to high school for 4 years. What did I get out of it? Well, I'll tell you what I got out of my high school going for 4 years. I left with um, a portfolio of houses that I've rendered in 3D. Like I was on my way to to being an engineer, but I pursued that in high school. I did that myself. I went and pursued that. You know,
yeah.
I know people that I left with an internship, engineering internship, and
I,
so it depends. It's a garbage in, garbage out kind of proposition. But
yeah, and
statistics,
I like what you said there. But statistics in the job markets prove that the college degrees have been tremendously devalued. That's not an opinion anymore, but a fact.
okay,
Is
which
it
job
a,
market?
oh, so I was going to ask you, um, is it a fact that college has been devalued, or is it a fact that that's your opinion?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because those two, those are, you're saying, and again, I'm just trying to understand like where you're coming from. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing,
Mhm.
but looking at this thing here, let me show you my screen right quick.
Okay.
No, please. Hold on, share screen. Where are we at? Oh damn! What? Okay, sure. Can I? Damn, dude. Like we haven't done this in quite a while, haven't we?
Mm-mm. So I'll
Okay,
follow
here
up.
we go.
Okay.
So, right here it says that nearly two-thirds, 63% of Americans now believe a four-year college degree is not worth the cost due to high debt and a lack of specific job skills. This represents a dramatic shift from a decade ago when the majority of the public viewed degrees as a definitive path to the American dream. And now it says that perceived value is only 35% of Americans still consider a college education very important, plummeting from 75% in 2010.
Hmm.
So yeah, Liberty Twitcher, I totally understand what you're saying. Um, and which is really kind of crappy too, because uh, declining faith in college spans across political lines and demographics, primarily driven by exploding tuition costs, political polarization on campuses, and the rising appeal of trade and vocational schools. Are they actually building more trades in vocational schools though?
Yeah, let's talk about the invisible hand of the market a little bit here, okay? Because we do need to discuss what goes into determining, because there's a couple of case studies I gotta find, but I read them a couple years ago because I was actually doing, I think it might have been a paper or something, about the college degrees and the price of them and whatnot.
I agree
And
with you, Liberty Switcher. I agree.
any employer can tell you mere college degree doesn't mean much anymore. Unless they say,
I
unless they,
agree.
but then if we're saying that, then why do they have college degrees as requisite to get the entry level position? So we can't on one end say that it doesn't mean anything, but on the other end, you have to have it in order to get in the position. But I'll throw this in here.
So, TK, can I
Yeah.
interject right quick? So I think what Liberty Switcher is saying, because I do understand where they're coming from on that. It's kind of like the same argument that we made before, whereas the reason why employers are hiring and making sure that you have college degrees is very simple, because they can pay you a shit wage and get top tier people for that shit wage. As before, I pay you a wage, and a high schooler can come in and get that same exact job for the most part. Whereas people with associates, bachelor's, master's degrees are now coming in and taking those subpar jobs
Yeah.
because they can, because the job market sucks.
But let's throw this in here because, and now we're going. This is what I got to throw in here. And you could we could talk about it, look it up or whatnot if you want to pull it up. Um, it does break down so on socioeconomic lines too,
Okay.
because as a black male with a degree, my likelihood of getting a job is roughly the same as uh, a white male with similar experience that doesn't have a degree, depending on what industry I'm going into. Um, and
Even
so
prison experience, actually.
yeah. And so like you could actually have he could actually have a criminal record, and his likelihood of getting a similar position is higher than mine with no criminal record and a degree. And so what does that say to me if I'm trying to step to these jobs as a black person with no degree, knowing that I'm already behind, even though I have a degree? And so there are layers to this. We can't just do the broad brushstrokes and say is completely worthless for everybody, because
Mm.
we can look at some of the other data and say that is also a thing where I could have a similar level of experience and have a degree, but my opportunity to get hired in this job comes down to other factors that I have no control over. I have a control over my degree and my expertise, but if said hiring manager is working with some unconscious biases, and it's like, well, let's give this guy a shot. And I've actually had that happen to me where
Mm.
I've been told I was the best person they interviewed and told that I was a perfect fit for the job. But they had guy over here who got themselves in trouble for sexually harassing employees, and it was just his time, because they needed to move him from where he was because they wanted to get rid of that position and move him back to the position that he already had. So
Mm.
I'm coming in telling you that we can't clearly say that, because that doesn't some of that doesn't apply depending on who you are. Some of it is you absolutely have to have a degree and then more and then some to qualify for the same job that these jobs don't think is like, we don't need a degree for this job. Okay, cool. So if somebody without a degree has roughly the same ability to get a job that I do, based on immutable circumstances, we can't cleanly say that, is what
Mm.
I'm saying. And so
No, I get it.
we have to look at that too. And so I think when we look
But
at
right.
qualifications for it, when we talk about qualifications and who's qualified and who's not, some people getting a degree is not optional. And for some people, getting a degree is 100% optional. I got friends that dropped out of school and they're doing great, but they had the connections. They such and such was the son of such and such's uncle who runs such and such, and then they ended up getting something.
Or they built their own thing. And for me, like I stated before, I'm going to school. You already know, I have no intention of working for somebody else.
Right.
I'm not going to school because I need a job. Like, I'm going to school because, number one, I love to learn, and I love to teach in general. So if I can get into something like that, that'd be great. But as opposed to just working for somebody, being like teaching something, I can do that. But as far as like clocking in and being in it, like, nah, I'm good on that shit. Like, that doesn't do anything for me. Personally, it doesn't do anything for me. But again, I don't plan to work. I'm not working for somebody else. That shit's out. Again, unless it's teaching. If it's teaching, I'll do that because I love to teach. But as far as like anything else, no, I'm cool. No thanks.
So, with AI agents now, it's easier to avoid having to work for someone else.
Yes, for sure.
Well, I understand that, and I'm not saying that, but I feel like we're taking different ideas, like different things that could be true in context, and we're just saying this is universally true across the board.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you're getting into a dangerous place when we start doing that. Like, I understand AI agents, bro. I actually train people on how to use this stuff. I train businesses on how to use this stuff. Matter of fact, when I get off of this, I actually got to go and work on my next training for a group of business owners, and I'm teaching this stuff too. So I get it and I understand it, but I think we get into the baby and bathwater situation, right? Like, you don't throw the whole baby out with the bathwater.
Okay.
You can't necessarily empirically say degrees are valueless because of AI, or degrees don't mean anything, or they mean less for everybody without AI, because there's some people, they wouldn't even get considered for a position without a degree, while others don't need a degree for the same position. So unless we're willing to have that conversation, we can have that conversation. Now let's talk about the invisible hand of the market, because that is also determining, for a long time, that was determining how much college tuition was, because there are colleges out there for a long time that prided themselves on keeping their tuitions low, and they're never able to hit their enrollment numbers. They raise their price of their tuition, and guess what? They raised the price of their tuition, and guess what? The signal to the market was, oh, since you're paying more for the education, it's more valuable. And that's literally, I got to find the colleges, because I did this was years and years ago. But they showed our tuition numbers were here when our price was affordable for everybody. And as soon as we made it unaffordable for most people, we hit all of our numbers, because price is your positioning signal. And for colleges that say, I have the cheapest, most affordable tuition, people say, well, your degrees are worthless, even though it's not true. Even though it's the same degree with the same rigor that you had to apply the same rigor and the same level of hustle and focus and study to attain that degree. But because it's from a school that doesn't cost a lot of money, kids are seeing it as, oh, well, this degree isn't worth as much. It's not prestigious enough.
That's crazy.
And so there are levels to this, and sometimes I think we see capitalism as a great equalizer, but we also don't see it as sometimes the villain behind the curtain. Because the only reason some of these colleges are so expensive is because if they lower their price, people will say that they're cheap, and then they'll have a tough time hitting their enrollment numbers. And there was a time when a lot of states college was free. And we need to talk. There's some history behind. There's some uncomfortable history about why it's not free anymore. and who had access to it when it was free versus who didn't have access to it when college was free. So we can have that conversation too. Because now that college is more accessible, if you have the money to it, all of a sudden now we're seeing, well, the price of, value of a degree isn't really that important. It's not
Right.
mocking anybody. I'm not mocking you, but I'm saying you see the pivot now when college
Right,
is more.
right. When you start looking at exactly who's the biggest demographic that has more college degrees than anybody else,
Yeah.
and then you start, oh, you know what? This isn't really worth. I see where you're going. I
Yeah.
get.
And so we can have these conversations along. If we're going to have this, we can't have it in isolation, is what I'm saying. So, yes, college degrees, people are seeing through not wanting to pay up for all this stuff, right? But the reason why a lot of these colleges raise their tuition is because they still have to hit their enrollment numbers, and lowering their tuition price lowers the enrollment numbers. But then also, historically, who's been left out of college? And now that we have a big surge of the people that have been historically left out of college, now degrees don't mean as much.
So it's just kind of like moving the goalpost.
It is a
Like
sliding
moving
goalpost.
the goalpost, yeah.
And I'm willing to have that entire robust conversation, not on this live stream because we're about an hour and a half in,
Yeah,
but
we're not done.
we can have this. We can have this. Like, we could do this as a follow up. Like, I wouldn't even mind doing this as a follow up so I can get my numbers together and we could really have this conversation. Or I can do it on mine, whatever. I'm just being honest with you. It is kind of odious thing. You got to understand, when I was growing up, bro, college wasn't an option. Like, I was in the 90s, graduated in 97. I was already a kid that had high academic standing. College was never presented as optional to me. And the reason why is, like, I was on my way in college, I was on my way, radio, job offers from a radio station to go out and do their drive time, which is a big deal out on the coast. From Omaha, going out to the coast to do a drive time slot shoot. And I was ready to drop out of college to go pursue this opportunity to work in radio and work in broadcasting. And the older people in my family, my mom and one of my older cousins, staged the intervention on me to keep me from doing that, because college was never presented as optional for me. It wasn't presented as optional for my cousins either. And there was a reason why. Oops, sorry. Even when it was right fit. But some people can't get, like, I got to stress this. For some people, the degree means less. For some people, the degree means nothing. For some people, you have to have a degree so that you can be equally considered to this person that doesn't have a degree. Let's talk about it. Great inflation.
Now, so with that, I don't really know because, again, I'm in school right now, Liberty Twitcher, which we've talked about before. I have right now, I have a 4.0
Mm-hmm.
in general. But again, like I said, though, I'm there because I want to be there. I'm not there because I need a job. So every class that I take is something that I'm pretty much interested in, right? I'm going to school to get my associates right now in sociology, and then from sociology I go into philosophy, and then counseling. Um, Inshallah, as long as God allows me to breathe and go, that's what I'll go for.
Mm-hmm.
But I do kind of understand what you're saying on that because, oh, dude, I gotta fly my house. God damn. But you know what, though? It's all good. Okay. Got my book. It's all good. Super good, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, though, on that, because my professor used to tell people all the time, like, man, when you're writing your papers, I still see that you guys are not putting the right indentations in your papers. You know what I'm saying? You guys are still not doing this, still not doing that. And that was like towards the end of the semester. So I'm like, dude, who are you talking to this much that they're still not getting it? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I understand why teachers offer so much extra credit for certain stuff because people just don't get it.
Mhm.
Like so I do understand what you're saying on some of that though. I do. And again, I'm in it right now, so I understand what you're talking about. And I've
So
seen it.
yeah, and like I said, I'm with it. Like I said, I guess for me, it does turn into that. It always does. It is highly contextual about who we're talking about.
Yes.
We have to contextualize it about specifically who is narrowly targeted towards this, because um, yeah, for yeah, trade school sounds wonderful and great, right? And for some people, that is the best path. But if you have a kid that would better be suited in college and not trade school, we don't want to say, well, college is 100% waste of your time if they would be
Yeah, for
better
sure.
suited for that. And so I think again, we got to reframe college as not just a career track. Sometimes you get education for the sake of your personal enrichment
Mm-hmm.
and not to get a job or anything along those lines.
Yep.
Um, you know, there are plenty of people that have degrees in fields that they've never worked in before. There are plenty of there CEOs. I just read the article. There's CEOs out there. People are talking about theater degrees are worthless. There are multiple CEOs with theater degrees, and they're not doing theater stuff.
Right.
And so I think we could pivot away from college is your degree track, because that hasn't been the case since college was restricted to a certain demographic of folk. Once it stopped being restricted, then it wasn't a career track anymore. But I'm saying that in some spaces, my college degree is equivalent to this person's GED and criminal record based on who's doing the interviewing. And I'm not in a position where I'm going to necessarily go 100% work for anybody, but it is being cognizant of that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when we're pushing college to my kids, it's because it's something that they want to pursue and they have ideas about what they want to do with that degree.
For
Um,
sure.
but understand that it is not easier, and I'll just throw it out there. It's not easier for a black person with no degree to go out there and face this job market. It's just not.
I mean, yeah, depending on what
Depending
you're
on what you're
doing.
doing, it's
Yeah.
not. And so you have to be cognizant of the populations of who you're speaking to when we just say that unilaterally. But again, maybe we need to have the broader conversation about why are these degrees so expensive, and then have the other conversation about why do people see degrees from colleges that aren't expensive as negative.
Mm.
You know, why is that? Is why is why is the money ascribed to the value of somebody's degree? So
As opposed to the degree itself, you mean?
yeah, as opposed to the degree and the commitment to get the degree.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Because man, I'm telling you, there'd be some nights that I'd start. I remember I started working on an assignment at like 2:30 in the afternoon. Man, I didn't finish that assignment till like 11:30 at night.
mhm.
Like so, yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, NBA is MBA, so they've been questioning the value of MBAs for a long time.
Oh my god, like yeah, I never understood that.
And
I've
for
never understood that. I've also never understood the having a degree in theology either, but that's just me.
well,
Oh,
and so a lot of times MBA, a lot of people who are on the MBA track, especially at Harvard and some of these other more renowned business schools, the track they were on was management consulting. You know, and
mm,
that's one of those really high paid, uh, dubious kind of jobs where you get paid a lot to, uh, you know, advise Fortune 500 companies, and a lot of times it's just reshuffling and finding ways for them to hide money and things along those lines. But um, those were a bit like people pay. Like if you go to Harvard and get that Harvard MBA, and your goal is to be a management consultant, that is a qualifier. You don't have an option. You need to have that MBA from Harvard to get the management consultant gig at like Kinsey and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but some people, I've seen them take their MBAs and do some amazing things with it. Other people get an MBA and it's just another thing on the shelf. It's really about the action that you take once you have that degree. And
Correct.
that degree doesn't mean anything of itself, without the
Nope.
action behind it, without you putting in the work behind it. I've
I
seen
mean,
people
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I've seen people waste MBAs all the time. And I've seen people get an MBA and absolutely crush it with having their MBA. So a lot
Mm-hmm.
of it has to do with what you're trying to do.
Yes. I mean, yeah. I'm again. I'm always telling people I'm going to school for philosophy.
Hmm.
Motherfucker, there is nobody offering like, hey, we want to bring in a bunch of philosophers. No, it does not happen.
Hmm.
So for me, I know exactly what I'm going to do with it as soon as I'm done.
Right.
I know exactly what I'm doing with it.
What I'm putting it to work for.
Because I'm looking out here, I see a problem. I see a problem that to me that philosophers could solve, and I'm gonna solve that problem. Now here's the cool thing. The problem I'm gonna be solving is not gonna be for everybody.
Hmm.
And I'm okay with that. I mean, that's what we need people with MBAs for.
Yeah.
Because the problem that they solve are not going to work for me. So,
If
eh,
I if I ever decided to go back, I'd probably go back uh to, you know, be a psychologist who specializes in adult ADHD and
yeah,
and also cognitive science. That's what I would go for because that's what initially I was interested in. And that's
right.
what my path was. I was going to get my master's and I was going to get my doctorate, and life changed. But if I went back, that's what I'll go for because that's something that I think, and I have a plan for what I would do with it. You know, um, but I think it does. You have to put some planning in about what your degree is for. And
Yes.
I think oftentimes we have people that get degrees just to get them like the Infinity Stones. They just gather the degrees to have the degrees and never really utilize them for anything purposeful. And
Right.
so we have to talk about that too. And yeah, let me Fearless, hold on. If you could take over for a second, I need to pull up percentages on how many
Sure.
Americans have degrees. What percentage of Americans?
Okay. I mean, but yeah, no. Like I said, for myself, for my degree, man, there's not a lot of people that are asking for philosophers by any means, and I think that's one of the biggest problems with perceived education in general is that people are getting a degree based on what is going to be out there, what's going to be good for the market.
Right,
Within itself, as opposed to doing something that works for you.
right.
Liberty Twitter, I love what you said, like about, dude, like where are um, where are the trade schools at? Uh, why are more people not becoming plumbers? Why are more people not becoming electricians?
Hmm.
Why are people not more people not doing that? Why are people not getting into uh, 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 what is it? Carpentry work, welding, stuff
Yeah.
like that. No, so I think that there are people that that are that are want to. Actually, you know what? I know a young man right now. His name is Mason. Mason is 17 years old and wants to go to school for he wants to go to school for welding.
Hmm.
And there's this particular school that is that's just for welders. That's it. And that's what he's trying to go to school for at this present moment in time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So again, like yeah, I'm possibly. I mean, and again, I don't necessarily know Liberty Twitcher if it's a thing of people not necessarily wanting to work Ford, or they need
Yeah.
5,000 mechanics, or this and the other. I think that this generation and other ones have seen us struggle long, for so long, to work for 60 years, 50, 60 years, and then retire with what? I mean, they don't want to do that rat race. I mean, I know a lot of these kids, not like millions by any means, but I think they would work doing something that they would want to do themselves. I know that when I'm sitting down reading, man, I could sit down and read for hours at a time, hours by myself, listening to music. Give me a cold thing of water, and I'm cool, right? But
Yeah.
other people can't sit down and do what I'm doing, you know. And again, even if you offered them money, most of the time it ain't about the money anymore.
Well, and I think
You know,
I feel like we're blaming kids for hearing how their parents talk. Okay. Where
right?
do these kids get the perception that being a mechanic is beneath them? Where do they get the idea that being a construction worker is beneath them or a plumber is beneath them? Where does that come from? It just doesn't manifest through the ether and pop
Yeah, that
into
part.
existence. You
Nope.
know, there's plenty of parents that did those jobs and they're like, I want better for my kid. We're the first generation of parents where or a first parent generation of adults that statistically aren't doing better than our parents on a wide scale. And so, where did the idea come from? These kids didn't think this on their own. This has been the way that we've talked to our kids. I'm saying we, the general we, where it's like, you're going to be flipping burgers for the rest of your life.
Right.
And those kids say, well, I don't want to flip burgers. Well, what if you're flipping burgers in your own restaurant? What if you are one of them people that have those burger restaurants where everybody wears lumberjack stuff and charges $19 for a cheeseburger?
Or $100 for a Philly cheesesteak.
Right. So the way we talk to the way that people have talked to these generation of kids, we've instilled it in them that there are specific job titles and designations that are beneath them. And so it's
Yep.
not about the money. They don't want to be a plumber because they're being a plumber and their mom and dad have talked about, well, you're going to be a plumber someday if you don't get your grades up. And so now they feel like I don't want to do
Right, I
this.
got you. Yeah, yeah.
And so I think we end up blaming the kids for the environment that the adults created.
Feel created, right.
Multiple generations of adults have this level of blame. And we're blaming the kids for literally taking what we're saying to heart and believing it. And so
Mhm.
I think that's ownership on the parents too. And it's the ownership of how we put this stuff on television and how we talk about it in society. This stuff doesn't happen in a bubble.
Right.
People aren't poo pooing the trades just out of the blue. That's been you're going to be a mechanic. Do you want to be a mechanic for the rest of your life? And kids be like, well, yeah. Well, you need to have higher goals than that for yourself.
Right.
I have peers that got talked out of all they want to do was be a barber. And people, you can't just want to be a barber. You need to have high. I just wanted to be a DJ
Mm.
and work in broadcasting. That's all I wanted to do. And you can't just do that. It doesn't make any. There's no career in that. So
Right.
you have to well-meaning adults have a share of blame to go around with this. It's
Mm.
not just the kids. They're not just coming out saying, "Man, I don't want to do plumbing. I don't want to do janitorial work. I don't want to do any of that." We have an entire generation of parents that have taught them to look down their noses at people doing this. And look at the way we even talk about service workers now.
Yep.
They don't deserve to make a living wage because they haven't earned a position to be requisite. You shouldn't have a living wage if you're working at McDonald's. What if that's literally you got laid off? That's literally the only job you can have. So you are like, because you cosmically the universe has decided to punish you. You don't deserve to earn enough for your 8 to 10 hours that you put in every single day. So
Right.
we have to look at how we phrase the way that we talk about this kind of stuff.
I agree.
So I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. But
No,
I'm saying there's a little bit more context that we need to add to the conversation.
yeah. Hey, we need to
Wrap
kind
it
of,
up. Yep.
yeah,
So we'll finish this up next week.
yeah, for sure. I love this convo.
And
Yeah,
we'll
we
talk
started
about
off talking about one thing, and then we got into some other stuff. Yeah,
we'll
it's
talk about
great.
higher education and all that other stuff next week because I
Yes,
finally got my numbers and all that other stuff. But
yeah.
we need to get to going. We'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to y'all later. Peace.
Thank you guys.